This video is sponsored by World Anvil. Well, it's the end of the year, and it has truly been an incredible year. And more than anything else, I owe that to the support of my incredible audience. So today, in my final video of the year, I want to share a sincere, heartfelt thank you to everyone who has been so wonderful this year. And I thought I would do that by shouting out 23 of my favorite comments from throughout 2023. Now, this can't possibly be a fully comprehensive list. I've received a ton of truly amazing feedback. Some of those comments I've already featured, like I shared 25 of my favorite comments from my final Tiberius video. I also get a bunch of comments that say things like, because of your videos, I've started playing RPGs or started GMing, and honestly, those warm my heart so much. I didn't select any of those because I don't want to choose favorites when each of those just means so much to me. I have also gotten more than a couple of comments that pointed out an issue where I made a mistake that I can learn from, and some of those I will share today, but even the ones that I'm not sharing right now, I really appreciate. I always respond to those comments and offer my thanks for the folks who are just trying to help me because they know that I'm doing my best, but they can also help fill in an explanation of something that I might not have gotten right. And there are some comments that I loved but didn't want to put in this video because they felt too self-aggrandizing. Like, yeah, of course, I got a lot of amazing comments on my politics videos, but I don't just want this video to be a victory lap of people patting me on the back for how smart I am. Though, don't get me wrong, there is some of that in this video. I'm also recording this in November, so I know I've probably gotten some more wonderful comments since then. Maybe I'll share some of them in a community post. Let me know if that's something that you might be interested in, but due to my schedule for the end of the year, I just need to record this video before Thanksgiving, so it just won't be fully up to date for 2023. Okay, now that I think you know what to expect, let's discuss 23 of my favorite comments from this year. The first comment is from Critical Role Demystified, episode 13, and it discusses a truly hilarious ad placement on YouTube's part. From The Unmade, and then Percy blows Clarota's brains out, was the moment YouTube put in an ad saying, and I'm not joking, monsters spill? Use brawny paper towels. Just a fantastic bit of timing, well done to the YouTube algorithm. This one is on my first video about evil orcs. It comes from Belphegor. They start by quoting me. Every rule in D&D is a suggestion, and that doesn't stop some people from acting like you're breaking the rules and playing wrong if you don't use every rule as written. Exactly. It doesn't stop at alignments, too. I had to, friendly, fight tooth and nail with my DM when making my halfling character because I wanted her to be chubby and to weigh more than the usual 40 pounds. Didn't help that it was my very first game. I'm still very new to RPGs, and your videos are a huge help, so thank you very much. I'm very glad you two worked it out. It doesn't sound like it got too serious, but this story breaks my heart a little bit. And someday I'll talk more about the ableism that is so deeply embedded in this hobby that it means some GMs don't want their players to even play fat characters. And the fact that somebody wouldn't want anybody role-playing a chubby halfling at their table is especially ridiculous, considering that halflings are based on hobbits, and hobbits are canonically a little bit thick. The best character in that entire franchise is more than once referred to as the fat one. Anyway, thank you for your comment. I really appreciate it. This came from my video about creators who have become what they warned us about, like Joss Whedon and J.K. Rowling. It comes from Basketball G. I love to hear your thoughts on how no human is a god. I felt the same disillusion while working in the marketing/film industry, but honestly, I feel better for it. I can enjoy things without the need to idolize them. And yeah, it's honestly liberating to not lionize people. I still like certain celebrities. I clearly have some positive feelings towards a group of nerdy-ass voice actors, but I try not to revere anybody, because when we view other people as geniuses, not only do I set ourselves up for immense disappointment when they don't live up to that standard, but we also gatekeep ourselves out of trying to do the same things they do well. And obviously, as you can tell by the entire premise of my channel, I don't believe that most creators are doing things we can't even begin to imagine how to do. We can do the same things that make these folks so impressive, as long as we remember that they're humans. This next comment came from the video about the core fantasy of D&D classes, in which I said that the Bard's core fantasy is a little confusing. This reply comes from Kaiju Koopa. I always felt the Bard was the most classic hero. You may wander to learn magic, swordcraft, you can use ranged weapons, or sneak and beguile. It is almost being the Link fantasy. That's a fair point. While I still think the playing of music doesn't necessarily match that, well, first, doesn't Link play some music? I have never played a Legend of Zelda game. But what I didn't discuss in that video was Kavoth from The Name of the Wind, who shares some of these same qualities. Now, when I discussed Critical Role episode 32, we talked about the ways you can bring players in remotely, and how to position them so everyone at the table can see them. And I liked this suggestion from Niku Otaku. We figured out how to use a lazy Susan with the laptop on top of it to swivel it around and face whoever they needed to. That is so fun. Smart solution. Might have to give it a try the next time I'm running an in-person game where someone has to join remotely. This next comment comes from my video about why Pathfinder fans have such a hard time convincing 5e fans to play Pathfinder. It comes from Tasman Jean. The way we like to think about it is, D&D is like a menu at a restaurant. Pathfinder is more of a well-stocked kitchen. Pathfinder has way more options and more interesting things you can create, but it's much more work to build, while D&D gives you an already complete experience but with less options. This is a great analogy. I mean, I haven't played enough Pathfinder to be able to tell if I agree with it, but it makes a lot of sense, and it also doesn't blame anybody for liking anything, so yeah, great comment. Now, as you probably know, I just made some videos about politics last month, and I got a lot of terrific comments, but I want to bring up this one from Joe O. I was going to say that I don't have anything to add, but thinking about commenting for the sake of engagement got me thinking about the metrics that YouTube uses and whether they are a good measure of what they want to promote, which got me thinking you could also take corporate attitudes and map them to factions in your game. Basically, any corporation could be used as inspiration for the local Thieves Guild. I mentioned this in my reply, but there honestly was almost a version of that video where I pointed out that we have a secret third faction in the United States, which was basically all these corporations. Now, I ended up not doing that because these corporations aren't quite one faction in the same way you might get in D&D, and so it was kind of hard to come up with a perfect analogy that made them fit into the video. Despite what some commenters might believe, I really did go into that video with a goal of discussing connections between the political system and our RPG games. Well, that was one of my goals anyway. But yeah, Joe O, you're on a similar wavelength to what I was thinking about. Speaking of people being woke, this is a fantastic reply to my video about D&D villains. This comment comes from Federico Vettencourt. I love RPing Strahd. You nail it pretty on the spot. He is an abuser. Abusers don't see themselves as the bad guys. Plus, he is elegant and can be respectful as he sits in front of the players. I like to have the dinner invitation as a real dinner. He invites the party, he showcases his wives, he talks about his story, from his perspective of course, and even asks for a favor from them in order to let them leave Barovia. He can see him as decent as the next abuser and gaslighter, to the point that PCs could argue to be confused about whether or not he is as much of a bad guy as they think. My favorite phrase for him to describe himself is, "Indeed, I am a monster, yet in this realm, I'm only a jailer. The prisoners of Barovia are horrible monsters as well, and so I must be a bigger monster to keep them inside." Man, I love that monster. I love this comment. And while it's not quite how I run Strahd, I have my own mindset that I'll probably discuss in a future video at some point, this is an interpretation I can really get behind. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, you don't need my blessing to play Strahd however you want. He could be a foul-mouthed Australian, whatever you think is fun in your games. But Federico's comment does line up neatly with some things I think make Strahd work really well, while bringing a totally different spin to how they present themselves. Good stuff. Here's another comment that expands on something I've mentioned. This comes from my video about reading pre-written text aloud from the Mr. Vengeance. I think your tip on tone might be the most important one. Basically, act and pretend like you're coming up with the words on the fly and not reading them out from a book. Mainly because the other tips are sort of common sense when it comes to any sort of public speaking/reading. Don't rush, don't get hung up on mistakes, understand what you're reading, and if needed, rewrite it in your own words, etc. But I think with the tip on tone and the advice to act as if you're making it up, there's a sort of barrier there that feels like you're cheating, that you're being a fraud. It feels like plagiarism, like you're trying to convince your friends that you did come up with those words yourself. I think it's a really good tip to point at that and say, no, that's what you want. You want them to think you came up with the text because that's how all your other descriptions sound and that's how they stay immersed. This text is meant to be plagiarized. I don't know what else to add. This is just really well said. This next one, I believe, is the most recent comment in this video. This comes from Critical Role Demystified, episode 43, from Tal's Corner. Man, being a conduit for endless knowledge must be awful. No thrill of discovery. First, very kind to say I've got endless knowledge. I don't quite think that's true. There are plenty of comments that bring things up that I miss, which I really appreciate. Second, don't worry, I'm way behind on Campaign 3, so there's still plenty of stuff to discover. But third, and most important, this video series is a different form of discovery for me. I'm learning and realizing things with every installment, and honestly, I keep bringing these lessons into my games and making them better, so this series is a huge help to my GMing. So I appreciate where you're coming from, but trust me, I am still getting a lot out of this series. This next comment came on the video where I compared two books about dragons. I got a few comments like this, but here's one from Inspiration Follows. I really like this style of video, being able to compare strengths and weaknesses of both official WotC books and third-party products. Hope to see more like this in the future. I have ideas for more videos like this, probably not anytime soon, but definitely down the line. Next, I actually want to shift into a category of comments I'm calling recommendations. These are where I get a specific recommendation from a commenter. Observe, in this comment from one of my many ways to build a character videos, this comment came from Stephanie Moss. Idea for a how to make a character video, maybe collab with only crits, based on what your dice looks like? I've done this before and I'm going to end up doing it again soon. I keep getting dice sets as gifts. I wound up making a whole video based on this comment. I don't always make videos based on what people suggest in the comments, but when they tie into my sponsors in such a convenient way, I mean, that definitely makes them easier to justify adding to the schedule sooner than later. Here's a comment from a Critical Role Demystified video where I made an aside about how the designers behind 5e don't really seem to know what they want to do with inspiration. Tony Rigby pointed me towards a possible solution. If you have a chance to take a look, Level Up 5e Advanced has a really cool standard mechanic for how to use inspiration. It gets tied to a destiny feature you choose, so whenever your roleplay harkens to that feature, you get information. If you achieve your destiny, you get a new way to get inspiration. It's a mechanic designed to get you to follow a character growth arc that you choose at the start to show what your overall story hopes are. It even has one where you aren't sure and can pick a different destiny later. Thanks, Tony. Level Up 5e is already on my list of 5e products to check out, but this comment definitely makes it something I want to get my hands on because this mechanic sounds really cool, so I really want to know more. I made a video where I played through the Pathfinder single-player beginner box adventure, and I got some suggestions for something similar from Riki. This just makes me want to see Mike play through a choose-your-own-adventure book like Fighting Fantasy, Sorcery, or 1000-Year-Old Vampire. I had already been eyeballing 1000-Year-Old Vampire purely because of the great experience I had making that Pathfinder video, but I'll have to check out these others as well. I appreciate the recommendation. The next category of comment comes in the form of corrections. Sometimes I say a thing and someone respectfully pushes back against it in a way that helps me grow and learn. I got a bunch of these, here are just a few. In Critical Role Demystified, episode 11, I made a reference to how I text and drive more than I should, which is, I never should, so any amount of that is more than I should. And I really appreciate this reply from Jordan C. I'd say this to a random guy on Reddit, so I guess I would have to stay true to myself and say it to you. Using a phone while driving is only something selfish scumbags do. Jordan, you're right. I don't have any excuse. And while I've cut down on this behavior a lot, I've got more work to do, so I appreciate you keeping me honest. Here's a comment on my video about why the rules matter, but ironically, it doesn't matter what video this came from, this is just poor word choice on my part. Per Jean Lerone Jerome, Mike, I enjoyed the video, but as a heads up, uppity was a racist term invented to describe black people who were trying to get up above their supposed station in society. Just FYI. Good to know. I'll be better about that in the future. On a similar note, Div Corum left this comment on my video about politics. Hi Mike, all your videos are great. I really enjoy the way you talk and the way you tackle some sensitive topics. But can I ask you something, please? Can you stop naming the United States as just America? I'm Colombian, and I think it's really weird you've taken the term for yourselves as a country. We are all Americans, as we were born on this continent. I say this with the best of intentions, as I see you say that because you're used to. But to me, it's really jarring, as it seems to invisibilize all of us. Anyway, thank you for all the good content. You are amazing. Great point. This is something I'll have to work on, but definitely I want to be better about it. The next one is kind of a correction, kind of just a reply, but this came from my video about whether or not dinosaurs in D&D are anachronistic. This comes from Don't Misunderstand. Anachronism implies D&D is historical fiction rather than fantasy. And yeah, they're right. That is the implication when we discuss whether dinosaurs make sense in D&D. And that's something I'm going to have to make a whole other video about, because the way some people use historical accuracy as a bludgeon when discussing D&D is genuinely a problem, when Don't Misunderstand is right, it shouldn't apply. But on the other hand, shorthand is a powerful force, and like it or not, players make assumptions about the game world based on fantasy tropes and historical tropes. So it's complicated, and it's something that I'll have to address in a future video. But again, thank you for the comment. Here's another very good response from my politics video. This is some gentle pushback from Charles Griswold. I would like to protest in the strongest possible terms your apparent belief that helping people is a worthwhile endeavor. Cthulhu, Fatagan, Flinglui, Mnglua, Naf, Cthulhu, Naf, Fatagan. That's true. If you're a servant of an unknowable, unspeakable force from beneath the seas, then yeah, we probably don't see eye to eye on some aspects of politics. You gotta know your biases, folks. The final few comments are just really lovely sentiments that meant a lot to me. These first two came from my final Tiberius video. They're not my two favorites from that video. There were a lot of great ones, but these two just meant a whole lot to me. This one, again, comes from Tasman Jean. Kicking my ass into gear and finally hitting that subscribe button after way too long. I appreciate the way you always feel like you talk to the neurodivergent of us in the room, but not by specifically calling it out. It's really refreshing and so helpful. This is really something I think about a lot on my channel. I don't want to just give my audience the advice, read the room, when that's prohibitively difficult for some people, especially some neurodivergent people. So it really means a lot that Tasman was able to pick up on that, because it is very much intentional. This next comment from the same video comes from Anna. Your transparency takes a lot of bravery and heart, and I hope you know just how much we admire and appreciate it. It's hard to show off ways you failed or fumbled, but you're willing to do it so that all of us can learn how to be better players and people. Congratulations on the 1-year anniversary, Mr. Rogers of D&D. That might just be one of the kindest things anybody has ever said to me. Thank you, Anna. This next comment comes from my first boudoir video. I got so many absolutely wonderful comments, I could fill an entire video with fantastic replies about that one, but this one took the cake by far. From Asher Gettings. I don't often comment on YouTube videos, and I don't think Mike will ever see this, but as I was watching this, I just had one thought. This man is going to be an incredible father. I can't wait to watch this channel grow. That comment just means so much to me. Thank you, Asher. And finally, look, the video about the racist lore of the Hadozi had a ton of amazing comments. Some were insightful, others were affirming. The response from people who understood the point I was making was really wonderful. But my favorite comment on that video, one of my favorite comments I've ever received, came from Daiji the Genie. When developing ancestries, you gotta be careful. That first step's Hadozi. Just an infuriatingly good joke. And you know what? Daiji the Genie is right. It's not just about what you write, but how you convey it. You need to be careful with what you communicate about your homebrew setting and how you translate that information to your players in a way that's responsible and respectful. It would also help if that information was presented in a more legible format, like, oh, I'm just throwing this out there, but as a series of articles about your world, like the ones offered by today's sponsor, World Anvil. These professional templates make your world easy to understand, so your players can read each article and understand the magic item or setting or NPC or faction you share with them. But this isn't just a bunch of loose articles. You don't have to send a whole bunch of links, because World Anvil has an auto-linker feature that can connect all of your pages by searching out relevant text and adding hyperlinks, saving you tons of time you can use to prep your game. And speaking of time, you can track time in your game thanks to the Chronicles feature, so you can monitor the timeline of your players' actions and individual timelines for your villains, or NPCs, or world events, so you don't have to guess at when important events might have happened. And World Anvil is offering a brand new deal for the viewers of this channel. If you visit worldanvil.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK, you'll save 51% off of any annual membership. That's more than half off if you go through worldanvil.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK. Thank you so much to World Anvil for sponsoring this video. That does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Now, some of you might have been disappointed that we didn't dig into any of the negative comments I've received. And in truth, I really did think about it. But I decided, no, I don't want to make a habit out of making videos that are so negative and unproductive, just dunking on boneheads. Those comments are the exception, and it's more important to celebrate the positive and productive feedback I've received from my audience. Besides, it's the holidays. This is a time for peace on earth, goodwill toward man. Do I really want my final video of the year to be a bunch of petty replies to some bad comments? Yes. Actually, yes, that sounds fun as hell. Join me on Sunday, New Year's Eve, for a special bonus video about my favorite terrible comments I got this year. There are some excellent ones, including one comment that was so bad, it wound up radicalizing me and making me even more progressive. Seriously, that is not a joke, that's real. Find out how that went down on Sunday on New Year's Eve. And then come back on Monday, New Year's Day, for a very important video about some updates on this channel. If you only watch one video of mine in 2024, that would be a very strange thing to do, but please watch Monday's video, it's going to be kind of important. In the meantime, make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell so you can get notified whenever I drop new videos, support me on Patreon if you want to help support this channel, join my Discord to hang out with other awesome people, and sign up for my newsletter to get more cool stuff, including some very cool updates coming at the beginning of the year. If you want to leave some more nice comments, check out this video where I get completely naked. Until next time, play fair, and have fun.